Sophie.
I'm Haley.
I'm Topper Grandma.
And we have a guest.
Julian. Say hi.
Hi. Today we are baking sticky buns.
They're also known as cinnamon buns.
Absolutely. So there's a few things we need to have to ensure we have all the proper products, correct, girls?
Yes.
Because Tupperware is what we use to do all our baking and all our storing of fresh produce, etc. So what are the products we need to have today? We need to have our large storage bins called the large carry-alls. Unfortunately, at this time they are not available, but always check and make sure because they do come available a lot of times. Then we have one of our containers that is one of my favorites. It heats things up in the microwave. It's a good size container for doing scalding of milk, etc. We have our That's a Bowl, which the kids love, absolutely love, because they can use the thumb hold to hang on to and do their mixing with. We have our Ultra Pro, which is one of our newer lines in Tupperware. It is oven proof. It is made with a liquid poly resin that allows it to get hot at all times to 425 degrees, and it works perfectly. No extra greasing involved, no nothing, so we can be safe with that. We have our measuring cups, which the kids like to set out in sizes, and our measuring cups actually have one extra that you wouldn't find in any other standard measuring cup in North America. And the nice part about it is when they design our measuring cups, you know the drawer you put it into and you open the drawer and your measuring cups get stuck? Well, that doesn't happen with Tupperware because they take that into a cord when they make the plan their designs. So we're ready to go, girls. What do you think? Killian, we ready? Okay, so the first thing we had to do was scald milk. Now, scalding milk is really important when you're baking, especially depending on your recipe, because some don't call for milk. And scalding means just bringing it up to a temperature where it actually is quite hot. And what do we need to do now? We need to add the margarine. We're using butter because there's nothing better than butter.
Butter's awesome.
Butter is awesome. And then we need to add 6 tablespoons of sugar into our scalded milk. We probably should have pre-done that, but that's okay.
No.
Quick. 2.
3.
3.
Good counting, Killian. Good job.
Not counting.
4. 5. 6. Great counting. And Haley, you're going to use our whisk, and you're going to just whisk that around just a little bit because we want it all to melt, and then we're going to just let it go while it melts and does its thing, okay? We'll just leave it here and let it do its thing, okay? And that we're going to move onward and do the next thing. So the next thing we need to do is bloom our yeast. That means we need to make sure the yeast is working and doing its job. So into our small little Wonder Bowl, our modular bowls, we're going to put in 1/2 cup of warm water.
And we've pre-done that.
We've pre-measured the warm water, you're right. And warm water, how did we find out how it was warm? Do you remember?
Wrist.
On the wrist, just making sure that it was warm enough that it felt warm on your wrist, but not too hot and not too cold, right?
Like when you've been in a blanket all night long and you're so warm and comfortable.
Correct, that's what we want to do for the yeast. And we need to feed the yeast. The yeast likes to eat, and yeast eats with sugar. So I need you to put in 1 teaspoon of sugar.
This one?
Yes, please.
Mom.
Good girl. All right, and now we need to put in 2 packages of yeast. But right now, because we're in different situations, and maybe you do it on a regular basis, we have yeast that we've bought in bulk. So a package contains about 2 teaspoons of yeast. So 2 packages is how many teaspoons, girls?
4.
Correct. We need 4 teaspoons of yeast into the warm water. Go ahead, Miss Hey. And what'll happen is, you want to make sure you do
Why don't you bring that closer to the bowl?
good idea. Great idea.
And you don't have to lean.
Okay, so 1, just put it on. Go quick, go quick. You're going to see the yeast starting to come alive. It's going to say, thank you for feeding me.
It looks so funny.
And what yeast does once it's fed and ready to use, you'll see it go foamy.
4. Okay, that's
Okay,
4.
so now it's in there. We can take our little whisk, just carefully move it just a little bit so that all the yeast is inside the water. Here, a little bit harder. There we go. Now see, we have that, looks like milk, right?
Yeah.
But that's the yeast starting to activate and starting to work. So now we have our warm milk We have our warm yeast starting to bloom and get active and do its thing. Now we need to get all our dry goods together, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to use the Vaxable. So we're going to take the seal off, because at the very end we're going to show people how you can use the seal to know when your bread is done proofing or rising. It's a really great way of doing it. So our airtight, liquid-tight seals work wonderfully. So my Vaxable is of an older generation, and it's a great bowl that's been used many, many times for many things. The newer colors, I gotta say, I love them. So it's one of the nice things about Tupperware. We come up with lots of new colors all the time. So let's move these containers around so that we have access to the flour now. So now, girls, we need to do, we're going to need, in a large mixing bowl, we are going to combine, we're going to put the flour, oh no, we have to wait for the yeast, that's what it says. It says in a large mixing bowl, combine milk and eggs and stir into yeast. So our milk isn't really done yet because it still hasn't melted yet. We may put this back in the microwave to get a little bit hotter. Maybe our camera person can put that in the microwave for us and get it just a little bit warmer, because I think it's cooled down too much with sitting on the table waiting to go. We just need it a little bit warmer, please, camera person. Thank you so much. And we're just going to pre-measure our flour because it's easy. You know what? It's okay to pour into the flour and get going. So what we need into this bowl is 5 cups of flour. Careful we don't knock our... That's a cup measure, yeah?
You can do 2, Kelly. You can do 1, because...
Okay, and we're going to put in 5 cups. So we want to make sure we fill our cup properly. And what do we need to do? So there's... Killian has the spatula. And what's the one point you want to tell people about our spatulas?
They come apart
So that there's no like yucky stuff there.
it's hard for kids to do though.
Okay, so they come apart so that we are food safe at all times, so you don't have any gook underneath there. We want to make sure we don't take things for years and years and years, right?
Yeah.
So they come apart to go into the dishwasher. So you want to make sure you level your cup, right? Real important. Good job. Excellent job. So let's count together. That's 1.
Now I'll do another one, and then we'll get Haley over here. She can do 1.
And then I'll fill Killian's one and he can put it in because
There's
I don't
2.
think he'll be able to
Okay,
do
Haley.
that.
Mustard.
I'm gonna move to you. I'm gonna move to you, Grandma.
Are ya? You gonna move to me, Sweet Pea? Okay, you just stand right here and we'll wait your turn. See, Haley's making sure we've got flour. There we go.
My turn.
Not yet. Haley has to do 1 more, then she'll fill yours and you can put it in, okay?
Would you like to do that? Yes, please.
It's good to start baking early.
Absolutely. Because baking is just science at work, right?
Yes. And then after, you get to have a treat.
And it's super fun.
All right, Killian, you ready?
Okay, your turn, buddy. You gonna put that one in?
Put it in the careful.
Put it in the bowl for us. Good job. So how old are you, Killian?
I'm big.
You're this old. 3.
I'm big.
You're big, you're right. Okay, then we need to put in a little bit of salt. Salt is something you can either put in or get out, but with breads, you really want to put a little bit of salt in. So this one asks for a teaspoon of salt. So we're going to put in a teaspoon of salt, which is just a little tiny bit. And it just, yeah, I know, but it's got a, okay? So we've got our, well, actually it says a tablespoon, so we're just putting in quite a tablespoon because we don't want to. All right, so there's our milk. Oh, that's much better. Thank you, camera person. We appreciate your help.
Awesome.
See? Now, we want to make sure that this cools down just a little bit, but we need to make sure that the
yeast is starting to foam.
the yeast is starting to, it's called bloom.
The yeast is blooming.
That's right, just like a flower, it blooms, right? So into the flour, we've put all of our stuff. Now we need to put in, we need 2 large eggs. They're gonna go in with the yeast and in with this. But if we put eggs in there right now, what would happen to the eggs?
They'd explode.
Well, they would kind of scramble because this is still a little warm.
Oh yeah.
They get
Eggs scrambled.
Yeah, because this is very warm. So we're going to stir it and cool it down just a little bit. Just a minute there, bud.
Last time I used flour, I was covered in it.
Yes, you were. So, do you want to tell us why we're doing cinnamon buns? Why are we doing cinnamon buns?
Because they're delicious.
Because they're delicious. And we're going to follow the recipe pretty well to the T, but we're going to make one little alteration. We're going to make a cinnamon bun loaf and actual cinnamon buns in our Ultra Pro, right? Right?
Putting flour on my face that is on the table.
Cinnamon buns is our favorite. One of our favorites for everybody in our family. We all love cinnamon buns. Now, can you do these gluten-free? I haven't tried, and maybe one time when I do cooking on my own, I will give it a shot. But when you're teaching the young ones how to have some fun in the kitchen, because I think it's imperative they have fun in the kitchen, then I think it's important you follow the recipe so they learn the science behind things. Once you get a little bit more adept at cooking, then you can alter things. But until then, you need to follow the science, okay?
The yeast is blooming.
It is blooming. Do you want to show them what we mean by blooming? Cameraman, can you show them what we mean by blooming? What is it doing? Can you girls
foaming.
describe it?
It's like it's foaming.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it's doing.
It's like rising up on top of the water.
Cameraman, could you grab me another bowl, please, that we can put this into? Bottom of the cupboard.
Okay, lots of ice.
Oh, no, we're not going to need ice today, sweetheart.
Not ice.
No, bigger. So because we're doing this in my dining room, my kitchen's not large enough for this. We've had to do a couple of alterations as to how we're doing things. So the cameraman needs to help me out with things every once in a while. We're thankful to have a great cameraman, aren't we? Okay, so do you want to put that on here?
Recipe, so
Do something, and we're going to pour this into here, which will help it to cool down even more. Because more space. See how hot that is? That would burn the yeast, and it would also cause problems for the eggs because it would cause the eggs to scramble or cook. And we don't want them cooking. We want them to be really nice. Because in a sweet dough, which is what we're making, we're not making just a bread dough, we're making a sweet dough. We want to ensure that we have eggs in it because it helps to make it much, much nicer and much, much fluffier. So if you want to stir that while it cools down, I want to double check our recipe because I'm pretty sure we should be putting some sugar into our dough. Well, we put the sugar in with the there, didn't we? We put in 6 tablespoons, and we put a little bit of sugar in with our yeast, and that's all the sugar we need for the base of the dough. So it's really not a high sugar content dough, which is good. Okay?
But it also has sugar.
It will have sugar when we do the others.
Don't
right?
eat too many.
Are you cooking? Are you helping? All right, we're gonna do this. We're gonna put an egg in, and as soon as I do, you need to stir really quickly. Okay, so 2 eggs. I would never recommend cracking eggs on top of a container because you might get shells. So you're always better off to crack. So I have a little, I'm using the poacher from the inside of our breakfast maker. Perfect size for putting an egg into so they can just drop it in. And always make sure you put your compost or your garbage, have a waste bin that helps with that because you really truly don't want to have that rolling around. Okay, you ready for the second egg, madam?
Yep.
Good
Really,
job.
really important you do not crack an egg on a bowl because one time I was trying to crack an egg and it cracked everywhere. And I'm like, I have to clean this now.
That's right, and you end up with eggshell. Careful, Sweetie.
Also,
You end up with
you have
eggshell
eggshell
all over the
everywhere.
place, okay?
Also, a few times when
So,
we
so
were
can you
making
tell us what's the next step in the recipe? I know it's in handwriting. So in a large bowl, we're combining the milk and the eggs, and now we're gonna stir in the yeast. So this is bloomed yeast, right? Ready to go? Yeah? Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so we're putting in the bloomed yeast.
It looks
Now
so
we want to use our
weird.
spatula. Where'd the spatula go? Oh,
spatula
Luna's just working on it. So use our spatula to make sure we get all our yeast out because we want all this to rise properly, right?
Yes.
Right? Because yeast is our leavening agent. Yeast is what's going to make it work.
Yes.
Whereas on other ones, remember when we were setting up, you asked about baking soda? Well, this is our leavening. So if baking soda was in our muffins, this is in our bread. This is what makes, oh, do you smell that? Isn't that an amazing smell? That's one of my favorite smells. I love the smell of blue yeast.
It
You
smells
can make
so
it again?
good.
Okay.
It smells good and funny at
All
the
right.
same time.
We're about ready to go. Now we're going to pour that into our flour. And we're going to use our new spoon that has a hole in it. And the reason the hole's there is to allow batter to flow through, to allow us to mix. So that's great to have. So, okay, Mr. Killian, we need to take that little spatula out. You're doing a wonderful job, though. Thank you so much for getting that flour ready for us. We appreciate that. All right, girls, you ready?
Ready.
Who's starting stir? Because remember, we have to stir for about 10 minutes, girls.
Me.
Okay, you ready? Oh, thank you, Killian. Good helper.
Now start stirring.
Start
I don't
stirring.
think I'm standing here. So
We're going to put all our dirty dishes.
So since this is supposed to be stirred for about 10 minutes, we're all going to take turns.
That's a good idea because, you know, it's good muscle makers. And as we stir, what happens is the gluten of the flour expands, and that's how bread works.
So making it gluten-free would probably be a bit harder.
It will be a lot harder, but we'll find a recipe that we can maybe try that for those of us that shouldn't be eating gluten. But you know what? I think right now we're good with having a little bit of gluten in my body, as long as I get some exercise.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bubby.
After you eat these, get some exercise. Or before, doesn't matter.
You know, if you're going to bake, the best way you can bake is with kids because they love to learn.
That's good.
Baking's fun and it's math.
It is math, and it's also science.
So it's a really good thing to do since we're quarantining and staying home. It's a really awesome thing to do.
Absolutely. Great idea.
It's fun.
Okay, so it's Haley's turn. I can tell you're getting tired. Okay? Stir away. Good job.
Super hard.
Well, yeah, because we want to get it to where it's looking like an elastic band just about. That's where you can use your thumb hold. But you're so tiny. I'll thumb hold for you. Okay, Tiny? That's her nickname, so I'm allowed to call her that.
Tiny. I'm not upset. Oh my gosh, my apron has flour everywhere.
That's okay. A little bit of mess never hurt anybody.
Exactly. It's starting to look like slime.
Is it?
Yeah, kind of is.
Kind of is. Well, then we're going to start adding flour once we get to a certain point, right?
Then it'll
Would you like Grandma to take over for a few minutes?
Yes, please.
Okay. So,
For me.
see how I grab it further down? When you grab it further down, I tend to have more control because I'm not really strong in upper arms, but we want to make sure we get it done. Okay, Killian, you going to help Grandma? Put your hand on the spoon with me. There we go. Quick, 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 quick. Quick, 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 quick. Good job. Good job. Okay, what Grandma do?
Killian loves to.
And we're going to start adding some flour because I don't think we need to do the 10 minutes. Okay? So now we want to get it adding. We're going to add a cup at a time of flour.
This one down. Can I have the spatula?
No, it's gone, honey. Sorry. We don't need to be precise on this part because we're going to go until we're going to go ahead, put it in. We're going to go until it makes a firm dough that we can work with, okay?
Yeah, and then it's
So-
going to go in here, right?
The recipe calls for 9 cups of flour, and we already put in 5 at the very beginning.
I think the minute.
We
No,
put
no,
in
bud.
another,
No, no,
so,
bud.
so we need to put in.
Possibly, but a lot of times your flour isn't needed because it depends on where you live, the moisture content in your flour.
It's gooey.
A lot of things are very...
Great.
It's
It
gooey.
is looking really great. Should we add another cup? And I'm
Yes,
Yes,
super
please. Let's
excited
have one
to
more
use
cup.
my hand.
One more cup of
Can I
flour.
pour that one in? Yep.
This is where you need upper arm strength. So how many cups is that now, girls? We started with 5,
2.
and we've added 2, so how many are we up to?
We're up to 6.
Let's go to faster.
And then we can let Killian do one once we're ready. Not yet.
Not yet.
You can get it in now.
Okay. Killian, do you want to pour it in?
Want to pour the last cup in? Whoops! That's one way of doing it. There we go. Just put it in. We need bread. We need flour on there anyway. We need what's called bench flour
Yeah.
for when we start doing our kneading.
That's gooey.
Should we put some more flour on?
No, we're good.
Okay.
That flour.
And it is flour.
I want to put that flour in.
You may hear some giggling in the background. My chefs, my kid chefs, their mamas are in the background. They're helping us out. They're our cameraman and our advisor on the side.
What camera are we in
Camera women, sorry. Okay, girls, we're gonna put some bench flour down, and that's what you do when you need to keep things from sticking on the countertops. Okay, and this is our pastry mat, and unfortunately, right now, pastry mats aren't available, but we'll work on them. Okay, so let's make sure we get everything out of here, and then we're gonna hand this off to one of our crew, and they're gonna wash this and oil it just a little bit for us.
Can I squish that? I'm gonna touch it.
Okay, you go help wash and oil.
I'm gonna touch
There we go.
Oh, it feels so cool. I want to
feel
do
neat?
it. I want to make it.
Okay, so in order to knead, oh dear, I have my rings on.
Oh dear, you have your rings on.
In order to knead, recommend no rings because they will get very full of dough, and that's not a great idea. So I'm going to ask my assistant over there to come and take these away so they don't end up on the floor and lost, because that would just destroy me. All right, so in order to knead, you pull from one side and you fold over. You pull from another side and you fold over. You just keep folding, and you use the palms of your hands to push through. Because the more we push through, the better the dough it is, okay? All right, go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna fold.
That's the girl.
Oh gosh, this is so big and it's so thick.
Yeah. And it's nice and warm, right?
Use this part of your hand to push.
The palm
So
of your
don't use
hand.
this part, but use this part.
The palm of your hand.
There you go.
Good job.
See?
There, good job.
And then squish it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
So it's getting kind of sticky, so we can add a little bit more flour.
Whee!
See, and put a little bit on the top. There we go.
Squish it.
Okay, so watch me again. We folded it over. Now I'm going to use the palm of my hand and squish down. But I'm not going to pull out. And now I'm going to put together, pull over, and squish. And now I'm going to turn it.
I try that.
Together, pull over, put it together, and pull. Push down, okay? All right, let's let Sophie have a turn.
Super squishy.
Oil.
It's warm.
It is warm.
It's super warm.
Use the palm of your hand, honey, not your whole hand, just the palm. This part right here.
My palms.
Yeah?
It wants to get off of here. I'm gonna put it back over here.
Okay, see, we still need to have just a wee bit more flour incorporated in there because it's still too sticky, but it's getting a good stretch to it, which shows us the gluten is starting to work. Okay, go ahead. We don't want to play too long because we need to get it in a nice into the bowl, getting ready to rise. And we'll take a break from filming when it's rising because we need to let it rise for about an hour.
Yeah. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out.
Julian keeps saying get out, but don't leave. Continue watching, please.
Get out.
And there will be another part after this when we finish it.
Sugar.
It's so squishy.
It is
Like-
squishy, okay? You want Grandma to take over for a bit or you guys stay
I
good?
don't do
Can I
it.
use them?
Okay, shall we let Killian have a turn?
Yep. I'm gonna try and get this dough off.
Okay, move over please, because we can't let it sit and get cold. That's the one thing when you're making a yeast dough. You do not want it getting cold. You don't want a draft on it. That's a boy. Good job, okay? Because if it gets drafty or cold, can you pass me the flour, please, Haley? If it gets cold, then the yeast won't work. It kills the yeast, okay? So it's all about keeping it warm and moving. Okay, Killian, you gonna help Grandma? Good job. Great job. Great job. Are you having fun? Good job. Okay, now this is a perfect time to talk about making sure we stay sanitized at all times. What's really important that you do before you do any kind of cooking?
Wash your hands.
Absolutely. And you should make sure that if you have longer hair, that it's tied back, because you don't want to end up with your hair in whatever you're cooking, right?
Exactly. Killian, his hair cannot be tied back, so we'll leave
Good
his hair.
job. So I'm going to just take this and I'm going to ask you to move over just a bit, Killian, so I can just get this to the point where we can put it in the bowl. Okay? Can Grandma finish?
No.
I know it's fun, isn't it? It's fun to do.
It's like a giant butter slime.
Well, not really, but you have to get your, if you have any kind of,
More flour?
nope, don't need any more. If you have any kind of aggravation, making bread dough is the best thing you can do. But you don't want to make pastry, because pastry is a much different kind of different touch. You want to be gentle when you're making pastry. Okay, you guys see that there's really no more flour going into there? And see how dry it's getting? That means we've incorporated, can you see? We've incorporated enough flour. Okay? So now we're going to put this into our bowl that has been lightly oiled.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just going to go into the bowl. We are going to put our seal on top, and we're going to close the seal. Seal the seal. So when you're sealing a round seal, you come from one side all the way around to the front, and you're going to hear it go pop. We're going to pop it just a bit to make sure we let out the air, and then we're going to let it go, because Tupperware has a magic trick. When this is risen enough, the seal will pop off. And then we will come back and show you how to roll it out, get ready for the next session, rolling it out, doing our filling for our cinnamon buns, and then we'll go on to something else. Thank you for joining us with my Tupper Kid Chefs.
I make
Bye. See you in a bit.